There's a burning desire deep from within to delight in the Lord with all that I am. There's a flame of passion burning from the depths of my soul to find the Father's heartbeat wherever I would go.
Another key factor that has to be considered when you're talking about suffering in the world, and it's the foundation of everything else that was discussed in part 1, is that sin exists. There is evil in the world. When you read Genesis, God creates the world very good. There is no sin. It is perfect. Man has perfect communion with God. There is perfect fellowship among nature. In the beginning, there was no meat eating. Everything was vegetarian. We see that Romans will tell us through one man, Adam, sin entered the world, and with sin, death. So we see death entering the world, and through this we get suffering. We get jealousy, we get strife, we get anger, we get heartache, we get all of these things that well up out of selfish pride. Jesus tells us that out of the heart is where the defilement comes, that our selfish hearts produce anger and malice and evil thoughts and slander, that these things come from within us. So this sinful nature we have brings about these harmful conditions here on earth, and as a result of that, we suffer. Maybe because we do something that brings about damage to us, maybe because someone in their sin does something to us, or maybe just because we're in proximity of sin going on, or just as a result of the ripple effect that sin has throughout our world. And the Bible also tells us that creation itself is under the curse of sin, that it awaits the day of its renewing, which Revelation tells us will come in the last days when Jesus puts an end to this, when God makes all things new. And it says there will be no more suffering, no more pain, no more tears, no more death. Everything will be restored to the balance and the perfection that God created it in the first place. And so we see that God said, here is life, here is the world I give you, here is joy, here is peace. And we step outside of those bounds where joy and peace and harmony exist, and things get broken. Adam and Eve stepped out of the boundaries that God had set for joy and peace to exist. And that harmony got broken when they ate the fruit. And we inherit that rebellious nature. And so we too step outside of the boundaries, outside of the limits of where God has established that joy and peace and harmony of life exists. And when that happens, our sin creates suffering. And so maybe we suffer because of ourselves, maybe we suffer because of someone else, or maybe we suffer just because this is a fallen and corrupt and broken world that we live in. And instead of focusing on ourselves and our pain, let that suffering elevate us to where we focus on God. Lift up our faces to where we focus on God, to where we see Jesus Christ. Let the suffering not be something to break us down, but to motivate us in our need for salvation, and that we can see that Jesus Christ offers that salvation and that restoration to what we need, to where joy and peace and harmony exists, because we cannot get out of it ourselves. It's only through Him that we are brought back into peace and harmony with God. We are still in this sinful world, so we do not get freedom from those consequences, but through that storm, we experience His peace.
There's a revolution rising in our hearts and in our souls to rise above the normal, a generation bold. There's a hunger in our being to stand for what is right, in purity and passion, no matter what the price. And all of me, come within. take me deep, deeper